Rituals that initiate young women and men to adulthood are practiced worldwide. In over 40 countries across the globe, female genital cutting is included in these rituals. FGC is the practice of removing part or all of a woman's genitalia for religious, hygienic, or cultural reasons. It happens to about 2 million girls every year. There are 4 types of FGC. The least severe involves the ceremonial nicking of the clitoris. The most severe form is called infibulation, in which the clitoris and labia minora and majora are removed. After the removal of these tissues, the vaginal opening is sewn mostly shut, leaving only a small opening for menstrual blood and urine. The most common types are excision and circumcision. Excision is the removal of the clitoris and labia minora, and female circumcision is when the clitoris is partially or completely cut away. The procedure is most often done in non-sterile environments by old women with no medical knowledge at all, and often leads to serious and fatal infections. In addition to the already polluted conditions, animal feces, dirt, and ashes are sometimes used to stop the bleeding, which in most cases leads to septicemia and death. After infibulation and excision, the heavy bleeding can cause severe anemia or death. The loss of blood and the fear and pain of being cut often leads to shock. After the wound is healed, women often experience painful urination, injury to the urethra, chronic urinary tract infections, and in very severe cases, it will lead to tetanus, sepsis, or gangrene because of the filthy tools used. Why, if this procedure is so dangerous and horrific, would these women want to subject themselves or their children to it? There are many different reasons. FGC, in some African cultures, symbolizes a young child's entrance into womanhood, and many young girls are excited about the procedure because they will be treated like adults afterwards. Also, in a lot of African cultures, female genitalia are seen as unclean and ugly and should be modified, and they also believe that FGC brings about many health benefits, one of which is increased fertility. A woman who has not undergone FGC will many times become a social outcast and will never be viewed as marriageable. In these cultures, the most important role of a woman is as wife and mother, so not being cut would in a way invalidate that particular woman. Also, since women are viewed as naturally promiscuous beings, it is believed that FGC prevents women from giving into sexual urges and ensures that they are virgin when they get married. Knowledge about FGC was not widespread in the US because women who had undergone the procedure were looked down on if they spoke of it publicly. However, it was brought more to the public's knowledge because of a few brave women, most notably Fauzia Kasinga and Werestiri. Fauzia Kasinga was the first woman to receive political asylum in the US based on the threat of FGC. She had been forced into a polygamous marriage, and when she no longer had her family's protection, she was locked in a storeroom to await the circumciser. She managed to escape and found her way to the US to seek political asylum. Instead of being accepted with understanding and humanity, she was stripped naked, imprisoned, and sent through the nightmare of the U.S. immigration system in December of 1994. Her case gained much publicity through groups like Equality Now, and they eventually provided her with better legal representation. In June of 1996, she was finally granted asylum. Another prominent case involved a Muslim woman, Werestiri, who was infibulated at the age of 5. She was, at first, excited about the procedure because in her culture, young girls who had undergone FGC were treated as women afterwards. She was lucky and survived, but her younger sister and 2 of her cousins died as a result of the procedure. The deaths, Deary said, were not uncommon. Werestiri moved to the U.S. when she was 18 and became a successful supermodel. She finally got the courage to speak of her experience publicly and received much criticism from Muslim women who felt she had no right to talk about it publicly. In response to this criticism, Deary only said, "This is my experience, my country that I'm talking about. It has to stop." Because of the close ties between FGC and the religious and cultural justifications for it, it is essential to work closely with the local communities in which FGC is prevalent. Despite these religious and cultural ties, there have been some successful attempts to end FGC. One organization, called the Tostan Project, has dedicated countless hours to educating those in FGC practicing communities. They take a respectful approach that allows villagers to draw their own conclusions about FGC and encourages them to lead their own movements towards change. In Senegal, Native women allied with the Tostan Project, which resulted in approximately 1,271 villages voluntarily abandoning the practice. Another successful eradication attempt occurred in Egypt in 2008. After a 12-year-old girl died as a result of infibulation, the Egyptian government condemned all forms of FGC. In some of the countries where genital modification has been outlawed, it is still practiced in secret. In other countries, instead of focusing on illegalizing the practice, the focus is put towards educating the circumcisers to reduce the harmful health consequences. After being presented with some of the facts, you may be wondering what you can do. As an outsider, there are many ways to get involved. However, as an outsider, it is important not to take an ethnocentric approach. It is essential to remember that careful listening to women helps us to recognize them as political actors forging their own communities of resistance. It also helps us to learn how and when to provide strategic support that would be welcomed by women who are struggling to challenge such traditions within their own cultures.